Hi everyone, Howdy McCoskey here of Howdy McCoskey Talks, and I'm just putting up a short video today in preparation for the radio podcast coming up tomorrow by the Crow, which we will look at the World Expositions in much more detail and looking at various historical lies. And I just thought, without going into really much detail or without going into a lot of a description, let's say, I just wanted to show you a number of photographs from the various World's Fairs that I have on my computer that are not the main ones. My book, for example, talks about, specific ones. My book focuses on things like, of course, the large ones, the ones that are the hardest to explain, be they Chicago, be they here, the St. Louis World's Fair, another one of the St. Louis Fair, or this is the San Francisco Fair, which is as well with a massive amount of work and preparation. But I want to just show you photos of some of the other fairs and expositions that were going on worldwide, not just in the United States here, to give you an idea of how widespread this phenomenon was, how massive the building construction was for these things, and again, the recognition that as soon as they were over, generally, they were torn down and thrown in the garbage. So let's take a quick look at some of these that are on my computer. This was Paris, France, in I believe the 1860s. So they built this massive, I don't even know what you want to call that, a giant semicircular open inside closed Colosseum, plus all of the things that are around it. That's in the 1860s, and then of course they didn't want that anymore, so they got rid of it. Here's Amsterdam in 1883. That's quite a very nice facility, and again, it looks like it's all glass, has a very similar look to the Crystal Palace as in London and New York City. How about here? This was Atlanta in 1895. Again, look at the sort of the manse of buildings. I'm doing this on my television set, actually. My screen recorder isn't working properly, so I'm actually having to film this on my TV, hence the resolution will be a little bit different than what you might be used to, but we'll get through it. But that's Atlanta, 1895. How about here, Berlin, 1866 in Berlin. And again, look at the quality of the buildings, look at the quality of the architecture, and then again, where did it go? Here's another shot of Berlin. This was the restaurant. So this was just the restaurant of where you would go eat at the Berlin, and this isn't even a World's Fair, right? Berlin never even hosted an actual what's the word, specifically qualified World's Fair. This was just one of its, like a minor exposition, and this is what they had built. Here's Charleston, North Carolina, 1903. Here's Christchurch in New Zealand in 1906. Again, look at the size of the building. And again, you don't need something like that afterward. Just tear it down. And I love the little building over here to the left, this thing right here, that kind of gives the impression of like a giant tent or a giant little coliseum. And then I love that they put over here, they put the little pioneer cabin, as if, oh yeah, 5 years before you were building little pioneer stone huts, and look at the great fast speed we've been able to build these structures. Here is the Cotton Exposition in New Orleans, 1894. Here's the Franco-British Exposition in 1908 in London. Here is Glasgow, Scotland, 1886 or 1896, I believe. Here we see, this is known as the Great America Exposition. I just want to get this a little more centered for you. The Great America Exposition, 1898. Again, you don't need buildings, you don't need to keep buildings like this and keep this kind of beauty around. And again, just think of the logistics, just to build this, the time involved, the building requirements just for that. And again, it's not so much the craziness of the speed of the building, it's the fact that as soon as these were done, they were torn down, blown up, dynamited, and thrown away. Here we look at Hanoi in Asia, 1902. Because you got to have the world. I'm showing you that these World's Fairs are everywhere, all over the world. This is also Hanoi. Again, look at the size of it for, Hanoi. Who's going to this World's Fair? Who's actually attending this event? Now here's a strange one. This is Jamestown, 1907. I probably should have included it in the book, but there were a couple of fairs. This one in Rio in 1908 I didn't put in the book, but they deserve to be looked at because they were so strange. This one you can see the very blatant Native Indian racism. This idea that the white cultured city, as it sits now, is so in advance of the primitive savage. As they say, those fellows have been going some, Pocahontas. Oh yeah, they've been going. And Jamestown was really strange, not so much just for what it was built. I mean, afterwards, Jamestown became some of the fair, I think, stayed, and it became a new naval base. But this is where the Great White Fleet comes in. There's been a lot of talk in the historical circles of this Great White Fleet, this giant mass of U.S. battleships that supposedly sailed around the world to show the U.S. as the new international sea power and to present a world of peace. Yeah, always a good way to present a world of peace by sending military equipment all over the world. And what's really interesting is everywhere in the next couple of years, be they earthquakes, be they destructions, be they anything, the Great White Fleet seems to have been really close by, as if either it's doing the bombarding of the cities, like it was there in San Francisco, photographed the year after the earthquake, or it was somehow bringing some sort of, I don't know, just negative energy to follow it around the world. But this is one of the things that really should be looked at in more detail, this Great White Fleet in 1907, 1908. What was it really? And when you look at where it went and the strange events in all of the cities that the Great White Fleet stopped in either before or after, makes it highly coincidental. And again, here's the logo of the Jamestown Exposition, which is highly not true. That's not the experience of what this would be a sort of a Spanish conquistador, certainly as they put on the bottom, Europe and America. That's not how it worked. Let's look at some more fairs. Here's the one in Copenhagen, the Nordic Exposition. Now, this is really strange because this happened in 1888, and what they did is they built this giant building here in the background for the Copenhagen Exposition. As soon as it was done, of course, they tore the thing down. So they supposedly built this for the exposition, tore it down, and in the exact same place built the new Rat House. Now, that's, of course, just stupid. Why would you build two massive giant structures in the same space in a very small amount of time? That's a tremendous waste of labor, of materials, of everything. Why not just build the Rat House first? You could make the Rat House look just like this and use it for the fair, and then when the fair is over, everyone moves in and you now have a historical monument of your great exposition. But no, tear it down, build a new one. Here's another example of the very same building. So this was considered not good enough in the historical narrative, right? Not good enough to be the Rat House in Copenhagen, needs to be torn down and a new one built. Now this is another, so remember, we saw Paris when I first started this. Well, here's Paris in 1899, right? 1889? 1889, right, just before the Chicago Exposition. And again, you're talking about what's been built for this thing is not just the Eiffel Tower. The Eiffel Tower is claimed to have been built for the exposition, and the building construction photos of the Eiffel Tower are very, very strange. I mean, that's a story or a video in itself that people should look into. And what was really interesting in the building photos is here you can barely see them in this drawing, but there, I should have pulled up another photo. But there was a series of very weird iron, I don't know if you want to call them towers or gates or something, that had been built around this whole level of the Eiffel Tower, and they were there for I don't know, 5 years, 10 years. They were photographed for a while, and then all of a sudden they just disappeared. You don't see them now. And of course you have to wonder if the tower acts like a Tesla tower, that these things are somehow part of the drawing in of the electrical or the or whatever type of energy this tower was originally drawing in. But I'm just pointing your attention to this is part of the fair here. So all of this is supposedly built just for the fair, as is this little corner piece in the corner, as is all this. This is not considered to be original buildings. These are built for various fairs. And again, where is that giant circular dome we had seen in the first image that we saw? Just gone, and let's build all of this. Now we look here. This is the exposition in Rio in 1908. And again, I lost a particular photo I wanted to show you, but I just want to show you a few pictures of this fair in Rio in 1908. Which again, who is coming to something like this in Rio de Janeiro? And of course they have another one of these weird diplomas, these things that you get for going to the World's Fair, a fantastic diploma in some sort of schooling that exists by going to a World's Fair. Obviously the fair was much bigger than this diagram. You can see some of the size of it here, but there's one particular photo I want to get to on the Rio Fair, and it's this building here. Now I had a second photo as well. This is the photo from the fair, but there was a photo of this same building. It was a military college from, it says the 1870s or the 1880s, and it's really interesting because the photo ground level is really, really high, like it's up to about here on the ground level, and it's like right at the door level there. But all of this is like it's covered, and parts of this are there, parts of this aren't, and it's just a weird photo to have seen. And it was also not the full size. It was like, I think it was about like this. It had about a size of about this large. And then all of a sudden we have a fair and we have this building. I'll keep trying to find a photo. If I can find this photo, I looked for it. If I can track it down somewhere to show you the supposed change in this building from military college in the 1870s or 1880s or to now. If someone else can track down that photo, great. Post it in the comments and we can all look at it. But it's one of the weird things about this fair was this change of this building. But again, it was a beautiful exposition, all built and all destroyed. Here's Seattle in 1909. And again, city like Seattle, supposedly just coming out of the wilderness, just coming out of, cowboy country. Well, we need to build a fair that looks like this and then get rid of it because, a city like Seattle, you wouldn't, supposedly new growing city, you wouldn't want to keep some stuff like this and, use it for future generations or hold other events there or try to draw people to your state when nobody's coming there. Like, that would be a good idea, but no, just tear the thing down again and get rid of it. How about here, Stockholm, 1866. So this is very early in the World's Fair stories, but still, that's quite a building for Stockholm, and again has this sort of Crystal Palace look to it, / could be like a train station, could be like some sort of metro station, could be some boat station originally, and then it's been claimed to be a World's Fair building. And here's Stockholm, 1897. So they didn't need the building they had before, right? Get rid of that one, and then but we got to build all this stuff because we have to now build a brand new fair. And here one last one. This is Sydney, Australia, 1879. Again, Sydney, Australia's been 30 years since there's been convicts landing, 40 years at the most, and they decide they have to build this giant structure. Again, another one of these structures that magically burns down in these strange, bizarre fires. These things either get torn down and dynamited, purposely destroyed, or a fire that makes no sense comes along and burns the thing down because, all this stonework, because this is stone. Don't kid yourself. Don't try to, someone's trying to tell you this is plaster. I mean, you're not going to be building a dome like this and having people go up and standing at the top of that if you're building in plaster, 2x4s. You need to have a proper solid structure and foundation if you're going to build this. And so this whole building just magically burns down even though it's, made of stone. And so that's my look through the little trip to the World Fairs for you. I just wanted to show you some of these expositions again that are just to show how they go around the world, how they're not just localized to the big ones that I talk about in the book or in the interviews that I'm doing. They were everywhere. Everywhere on Earth had one of these fairs, had one of these giant buildings and one of these massive structures, and then all of a sudden, within a few years, it's all gone. So I just wanted to leave you with those questions. No real extra information or answers. Enjoy the Crow interview that comes on Crow Radio tomorrow, Monday, and I'll get back to you later in the week with my next Plato's Cave video. I think there's a very important piece of information that needs to be shared now with where a lot of us are, and it links more to the information I had on Plato's Cave. So I'm going to do that later in the week or on the weekend. I'm not going to put a specific date or pressure on myself. It's just when I feel ready, I will make that video for you. And yeah, I'll post a link to the Crow when that comes online, so you can go find where you can go see that. And again, thanks for your support, your donations, your purchasing of books. I'm getting a lot more emails, of course, than I used to get, so it's a little slower for me to reply to all of them. And a lot of people are sending me very interesting links, and I am checking the links out. So if I don't respond to you, it doesn't mean I haven't taken a quick look and seen whatever video or piece of information you're referring to. But I've got a mass of emails coming in, and that's fine. Send them in. It just means you may not get a reply, or you might not get a reply really quickly, but don't necessarily think it's been ignored. So thanks again for everything, and the 2-hour interview, which I think you'll find quite interesting with the guys on the Crow tomorrow, and a new one on Plato's Cave coming in a week or so. Thanks, everyone.